Secretary of State, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. So what can you give us?
Thanks for having me on.
Always good having you, Mr. Hancock. Thank you for coming on. What can you tell us about the background of this?
Well, over the last few months, we've massively expanded the amount of coronavirus testing as a country and now have one of the biggest testing programs in the world. But I am not satisfied with that because we know that other than social distancing, testing is one of our primary defenses against the virus. It's one of our big lines of defense to find the people who are positive and for them to isolate, their contacts to isolate, so that we stop the spread of the virus. But at the moment, that is working. That's effective. But the tests have to go off to a lab. It takes normally 24 hours for them to come back. There are new technologies that are coming down the track so that we can not only much more easily test people who might have symptoms or who we might think has the virus, but also roll it out much more broadly, mass testing, to give people the confidence that if they test negative, that they can then go about their normal business. And this will help to get people back to work, as you say, and to reassure people that they don't have the virus, as well as, of course, helping us find more accurately the people who do.
And how much of a concern is that? Because I note that figures last week showed it's identifying fewer close contacts than the previous month, down from 51% to 42%. Now, is this because of the sheer bulk of testing that's going on, or is there a flaw somewhere that needs to be identified and resolved?
I'm not sure which. I don't quite recognise that statistic.
Okay.
The number of people who, when they tell us their contact, who they've been in contact with, we now manage to get in contact with 84% of them, and the standard that we were asked to meet was 80%. So we're at so the contact tracing system is working. It can always improve, and it's important we keep working to improve it. But it is working effectively to keep the virus under control. And a combination of the test and trace system, the social distancing people are doing, and the quarantine rules are at the moment keeping the number of cases in this country flat, when we can see in other countries, including near neighbours like France and Spain, the numbers are really shooting up.
You're probably aware of what's being said out at Heathrow Airport. Secretary of State John Holland-Kay, who's the chief executive there, is saying airport corona tests are desperate. We're playing quarantine roulette. He talks about the impact on air travel, and of course this as a number of staff at Heathrow Airport are either being put on half-time or being laid off. Where are we with the idea of tests at airports?
Well, there's a challenge. There's a biological challenge, which is just a fact of life, which is that when you catch coronavirus, you incubate it for some time. And the scientists reckon that a test on day one only catches about 7% of people who've got the virus. And so testing people at the airport doesn't actually help to keep people here safe. That's why we have to have the quarantine policy. And we lift the quarantine policy wherever we can, where a country is safe. But obviously, as we've seen, and as you and I have discussed, Nick, many times,
yes,
we are also prepared to bring that quarantine in, sometimes at short notice, when there's a country where the number of cases is really shooting up.
How excited should my listeners be by the deployment of hydrocortisone as regards COVID-19?
Yes, hydrocortisone is a really positive step. I mean, it's only the second treatment that is proven to reduce the risk of dying. It is to be used on the most ill coronavirus
ICU,
patients.
I think, isn't it, in intensive care?
Those in intensive care. Thankfully, now there's far, far fewer people in intensive care, and as I say, the number of cases is flat. But nevertheless, it's another big step forward. It's another big fillip for British science. And it absolutely will help to save lives.
So you and your colleagues in the health department are working flat out to improve the health of the nation so that we can all come back to work. It is said to be one of Prime Minister Boris Johnson's prime objectives, and yet I read that a campaign that was meant to be starting at the end of this week has now been put back until next week, of a series of advertisements and a social media drive to get us all to go back to our respective offices and places of work. Why has it been delayed?
Well, I don't think it particularly has. I haven't seen that story, but the message is really clear.
Front page of the Daily Telegraph. You need to have a word with some of your colleagues that they've not made you aware of it.
The message is really clear, which is that that people should feel confident to go back to work where their workplace is COVID secure. The COVID secure rules are really clear now, well understood by businesses, by employers. Of course, over the past few months, lots more people have been working from home, but people should have the confidence. And then the new testing that we're introducing will, I hope, help to build that confidence yet further.
But that was the idea of this campaign. I say again, why? A, and one, were you aware of the campaign? And if you were, B, and two, why has it been suspended?
Well, I'm aware of it, but I don't think that it has.
But it was due to start tomorrow.
Well, I wasn't. I can't confirm that. No.
All right. Coming back to the health department, what percentage of your colleagues are back behind their respective desks?
Oh, a very large proportion, and
so
growing.
More than 50%.
It's growing every week, is what I'd say. I'm not going to give you an exact figure, but more and more.
But I mean, a large proportion means it's 50. Sorry.
The thing about my department is that we've been pretty full all the way through, Nick, because we've been doing all of the, of the response. The testing team on the second floor. The whole health department has had to work incredibly hard during this.
But your office staff, would you say more than 50% of those men and women are back behind their desks?
Well, I haven't got the figure on the top of my head, so I'm not going to say. But what I'm saying is more and more.
But you don't actually know the precise number?
Well, not this week, because it keeps increasing.
All right, okay. To other matters, just a quick word on this if you can. I appreciate this is not your brief, but there are concerns about what's called the immigration crisis, the migrant crisis in the English Channel. It's been another day. And again, this does affect, of course, the health of these poor souls who put their lives at risk to try and get to this country.
It does, yeah.
Your senior colleague, Priti Patel, promised action last October. I'm looking at my diary. That's 11 months. We seem to be going backwards, Secretary of State.
Well, there's two things we have to do, isn't there? The first is we need to stop people leaving France and coming illegally. And the second is that if they do, then we need to be able to take them back. I mean, there's absolutely no reason, no justification for people to need to leave France illegally. France is a perfectly civilized country that looks after all the people who are there. So there's absolutely no need for this to happen, and so we need to stop this transit, which, exactly as you say, puts a huge number of people at risk, and is very, very heavily influenced by criminal gangs who are essentially exploiting these people.
Okay. Do you sense you can be reinfected with COVID? There seems to be another case, Secretary of State, of someone who's caught it. I'm going to say caught it twice. I'm sure there's better medical terminology than that.
Yes. Well, we have seen these cases, haven't we? The scientists in the department are looking very closely into it. But it does appear that these cases of reinfection are credible. The question is how many there are, and also how dangerous it is if you catch it again, and how infectious you are if you catch it again. As in, do you get just a much smaller dose?
Yes.
So there's a lot of very important scientific questions and we're doing a huge amount of work into trying to understand it from the relatively few number of cases that we've seen so far.
Final point as I conclude our conversation. I've had the privilege of asking you questions for these last 4 or 5 months, whatever it's been. You are aware that next week we launch Call the Cabinet here on LBC, and you will be asking questions directly from my listeners. What are you hoping to hear? How important is that for you and your colleagues?
Yes, I'm really looking forward to it. I find that engaging directly with the public on programs like yours is incredibly. It's just incredibly important, especially in these unprecedented times. I love being out and about and talking to the public, and doing it on the radio will allow everybody to hear the conversation.
Look forward to it. I'll see you on Monday, Secretary of State. Of course, we will suitably socially distance. That's Matt Hancock confirming that here on LBC. Thank you for your time, Mr. Hancock.